Well, hi folks, this is Darren with My RV Works. Welcome to my shop. Sorry I didn't clean up, but whoopee-doo, it's a shop. A clean shop is a sign of a misspent afternoon, right? Hey, a table saw, all these kind of saws. I have a wood cutting fetish. I like to cut it in different shapes. Cats here, the kids might come in and out, but hey, it's a shop, it's a rainy day, did some office work, and I have a furnace here. And I don't have a video on a furnace. Just kidding. I do have a lot of videos on furnaces. If you go to the YouTube channel and you find My RV Works on YouTube and you click along the playlists and you click on the playlist, I do have some furnace videos. And so I have a new one here. Some of your furnaces, you can access them from the outside, and I love when the manufacturers do that because everything's right there. And some of them, you have to actually pull the furnace out in order to work on it, and that was the instance on this furnace. I could tell by listening to it that it didn't sound like a normal furnace, and we're going to bring you in here. You're going to listen to it. And through my discovery out in the field, when it wasn't raining the other day, it was a beautiful day, I made a discovery. I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of an interesting solution. So we decided to bring the furnace to the shop because it does need some work. And I decided to bring you along for the journey. So I'm going to bring you closer, and we're going to let you listen to what this thing's doing. And then we're going to discuss the who, what, when, where, why of the whole thing. And by the time we're done with this, you will have figured out another thing about furnaces. So I'm going to bring it a little closer, and we're going to jump into this thing, okay? A furnace, let's say this is a nuclear power plant. It doesn't matter. This thing could be like the simplest device or the most complicated device. But at the end of the day, it's got 4 wires where it communicates to the world, okay? This one, whose is this? It's an Atwood, which means it's a Dometic because Dometic bought Atwood. So this is a Dometic furnace, formerly Atwood, and it's an 8940. Therefore, it came out in 1989, and it's a 40,000 BTU. The point I'm trying to make is there are 4 wires. It does not matter. See, here we have red, yellow, and 2 blues. It would not matter if this was a Suburban. It would not matter because there's only 4 wires that control when the furnace starts. I have a plus and I have a minus. So there's my 12 volts plus and minus. In their wisdom, they made ground yellow. Yes, ground's supposed to be like green, but they made it yellow. So be advised. Plus is red in this furnace, okay? Yours might be different. And yellow is ground, leaving me with 2 blues. So one of these blues is going to be 12 volts hot. And one of the blues is going to be my signal wire coming back. Now, let me explain this. I've done it in a lot of my other videos, and here's where I get stuck. I'm like, wait a minute, I've already discussed this, but maybe you didn't watch that video. So if you have, go with it. So one of these is going to be hot, and he's going to be piggybacked off of the red plus wire. Up in my air conditioner control box, which is up in the air conditioner, or if I don't have it that way, I might have a wall thermostat just for the furnace. But basically what I'm going to be doing is touching these 2 wires together, okay? A lot of times, if you're asking me to come and work on your furnace and you head to my website and you fill out your service request, I'm going to be asking you air conditioner questions. And you're like, wait a minute, this guy's an idiot. I am having problems with my furnace. Why is he asking me air conditioner questions? Well, because sometimes the air conditioner control board is what's controlling the furnace. And you're troubleshooting your furnace, and it could be the air conditioner thermostat. It could be the air conditioner control board. Why? Because the thermostat and the control board and the air conditioner are what's doing the touching of these wires together, okay? If you don't have that, then it might be a wall thermostat. The point being, you touch these 2 wires together, the furnace is going to start, as long as it's got its power here, okay? Now that we've discussed that, here's another question I get a lot of times. There's a switch over here. Maybe in the process of spinning this thing around, you'll see a switch. Your furnaces are going to have a switch. This one's going to say reset and off. And a lot of people ask me, well, what's the switch for? And I think that's a DOT requirement. You also see on your water heaters, a Suburban water heater is going to have an on-off switch. And the furnaces are going to have an on-off switch. Is that where you turn it on and off at? The reset is a fuse to reset it if it's necessary. But I think the answer there is a DOT requires it. That's going to be my answer. So if you know the exact official reason why there's a switch besides the DOT, hey, leave a comment down below. I think we could all benefit from it. But in other words, it is not to turn your furnace on and off is the point. Because a lot of times you cannot even get to this switch because it's nested in here and this thing's abutted to the wall and it's down in the basement. So when I went to school on these things, I've been to several different schools on these things. that's come up on a couple of them, and the answer that the instructor gave us was a DOT requires it. So that's what I'm telling you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to touch these two wires together. The furnace will start to spin. It's going to go through its pre-purge. Why is he doing the pre-purge, Darren? Well, we don't know what's inside of this thing. Maybe there's a fuel or something. So he's going to just kind of blow himself out, clean out all of his baffles and all of his heat exchanger. He's going to blow out all the combustibles, blow everything out. And then after that, another thing he's going to do is he's basically going to count to 15. Could be longer, could be shorter. It's not like there's a Google Watch in there that's actually timing down to the thousandth of a millionth of a second. It's the idea of 15 seconds. It's the idea of a purge. And so he's purging himself. And we don't expect to hear any clicks or ticking sounds during that purging process, that 10, 15 seconds of purging. So he's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But at the same time, he's also looking for another, in his control board, right here. Let me pull this out. This will be fun. So in this control board, again, I don't know if you're in the shot or not, but let me just unplug this harness. I should bring you a little closer. So one of these blue wires, off the top of my head, I don't know which, okay, is the blue wire that's coming back from the thermostat. So let's follow this blue circuit. On a lot of your troubleshooting, this might add value to you. So I'm going to pick up 12 volts coming from my blue wire, which is getting it's piggybacked off of the 12 volts plus. 12 volts plus from my fuse through my battery. I'm going to power up everything, and it's just waiting for a start signal. Then I'm going to send 12 volts up one of these wires to either a wall thermostat or an air conditioner control board up in the ceiling plenum of your air conditioner. Once that switch is made, I'm going to touch these two wires together. I'm going to come back on the wire. Coming back on the wire, it's going to then go through a sail switch. The sail switch is a proof switch, P-R-O-O-F, proof switch. It's proving that there is an adequate CFM, there's an adequate cubic feet per minute of airflow. If you're boondocking, you're in a parking lot somewhere, and you're running strictly off batteries, if your batteries start to deplete, you're running your furnace, okay? And all of a sudden you're running your furnace, and they're consuming all the juice inside your furnace, out of your batteries. Your furnace starts to spin slower. The blower motor, the fan blower, starts to spin slower because your battery is not as charged. Well, I'm going to keep the math really, really, really simple. This is not the real numbers, but for purposes of instruction, let's just pretend that a 12-volt battery is going to make my motor spin at 1200 RPM. Those are not the real numbers. You could read right on here. The motor is much, much faster than that. I'm not even going to take the time to look, but for purposes of instruction, let's just say that my motor spinning at 12 volts is spinning 1200 RPM. At 11 volts of battery juice, 1100 RPM. At 10 volts of battery juice, 1000 RPM. You with me on that? So as my motor starts to spin slower and slower and slower, because my battery is consuming more and more of the juice, spinning slower and slower and slower, it may not be enough to keep that sail switch flipped up. I have a sail switch right here. Let me show you what these, they have different sail switch things too. They don't all look the same. But this one right here, there is a sail switch. Let me make sure you can see that. Where are you? Left is right. Okay, so that's a sail switch for this furnace. Okay, so if you see, it just clicks like that. So if I blow on it, it's going to make. So it's got this long tail to it. Okay, can you guys see that? So that is inside of my blower head, and when the fan is blowing, it's enough. In my analogy, at 1200 RPM, because of a battery's at 1200. My battery's at 12 volts. So let's just say at 11.3 volts of battery juice, this switch just doesn't have enough wind to keep it closed, so it starts to open. So this is an engineered piece. And the reason they do that is because my fan does not have enough to support combustion, so let's shut the whole works down. Okay? That's the sail switch. It's a proof switch. It's proving that I have enough airflow to support combustion to make this whole thing work. So there's a sail switch. Because the sail switch is in the blower housing that is sucking air from your living quarters, if you have cats, dogs, or ferrets, or anything that has shedding of hair, then a lot of times what will happen is that hair gets sucked into your furnace, and I have seen, and I've even got another video, go look for it, where hair will get wedged inside the sail switch and prevent it from opening and closing. Okay? So a lot of people are picking on the sail switch. When I read the forums and people ask me the questions, like, it's got to be the sail switch, it's got to be the sail switch. And hey, maybe it is a sail switch, but there's a lot more to this thing than just a sail switch. On the sales switch, I'll mention this as well, that the control board here, I'm getting all tangled here, I've unplugged this harness that goes here. I've unplugged that to show you. This control board needs to see that sales switch change states. So follow with me on this. Let's say that the sales switch was stuck, okay, full of dog hair or cat hair or dander or whatever. Then it never changed states, did it? It never went from open to closed or closed to open, okay? And so because this control board did not see that change of states, it will deny the control board from actually causing ignition, okay? It will prevent that from happening. So therefore, you cannot bypass your sales switch. I got a comment from somebody about bypassing a sales switch. That's not something that the control board would allow you to do because it's not seeing that change of states from open to close. Maybe you could bypass your sales switch if you kind of became the blower fan and you opened and closed, you connected and disconnected it, kind of correlating with, but don't even get into all that. Just don't do that. It's a safety feature, so it's leaving it there. That's enough on the sales switch. Moving on. Feel like night at the museum. Moving on. So 12 volts, we pick this up, it goes to the thermostat or the wall switch, comes back, goes through my sales switch. We've talked about that. The next thing it's going to do, it's going to go through a high limit thermostat built into this furnace. On this furnace is a high limit thermostat. Let's say that I've got all these ducts that are all over my RV. They're on the floor, and I threw rugs down, and I blocked that airflow. And so now I'm creating heat, and I'm trying to blow it out the ductwork, and I need a minimum of 4 open, unrestricted ducts, and I'm blocking them. And so the heat can't get out of here. And so it starts to back up inside of my box. Well, that's what that high limit thermostat's job is to do. It detects the heat building up in this box here, and it'll open itself, okay? And if it opens itself, then the control board will detect that, and it will start stopping. It will extinguish the flame. I'm trying to be very specific on how I'm saying the process. So the sales switch and the high limit thermostat are daisy chained together. So it's an or statement, if you will. So either the sales switch or the high limit thermostat could extinguish the ignition on your furnace. And that is the same circuit that leaves from my air conditioner thermostat. Yeah, well, the thermostat's not controlling it. The thermostat's up in the air conditioner, you have the control board. Thermostat controls that. Control box in the air conditioner, that is what's closing these wires together. That's where the blue wire starts. Okay, comes through here, goes through my sales switch, goes to my high limit thermostat, goes to my control board. So either the thermostat could open because he's satisfied, sales switch could not have cycled, or my fan starts to slow down, not supporting the spinning. My high limit thermostat could get too hot and open the circuit. So these are the things that might cause the furnace to stop ignition, to extinguish the flame, okay? So that is how that control circuit works, okay? One more thing I'm thinking of is a lot of times folks will ask me the question, well, because a sales switch is getting all this dirt and everything caught up in it, can I put like a filter over my intake to my furnace? And the answer to that question is no, you cannot. That is not Darren's rule, that's the manufacturer of the furnace's rule. So they do not want any restriction of air coming into the furnace, and they want a minimum, check your manual, they want a minimum of 4 or 5 wide open 4-inch ports, okay? So they need air in and air out, no restrictions. So it would be incorrect to take the bounce sheets or a screen or something like that if your registers are on the floor. I have seen folks take little filters or little bounce sheets or whatever and take their register off and put those in there nice and pretty and then to put the thing on. Well, that's a restriction of airflow. And I've also seen where they go to the hardware store and they get a nice little HEPA filter or whatever on the intake feeding of this to prevent all the dirt and dander and hair to getting into this. And that is also a restriction of airflow, so that would be not good. That's not correct. That's not how these things are supposed to work. And so if you're having issues with your furnace and you have any blockage of airflow, then that would be Where am I going with this story? Take those out and see if it'll work then, because your sales switch might not be satisfied. Okay. On that, if you're troubleshooting and you do have a bench test on one, this model doesn't, but the newer AFS, AFM, and AFL furnaces, Atwood furnace small, Atwood furnace medium, Atwood furnace large, those do require the exhaust tip, the exhaust port, to be connected to the furnace. So if you're trying to troubleshoot your furnace and you don't have that exhaust port plugged in, it's going to ignite and extinguish, ignite and extinguish. Don't ask me how I know that. So you plug that little exhaust port on it, and that will fix that problem. Okay, so let me plug this back in. And there's ground. Okay, the board is going to say which one's ground, ground being yellow. So we're going to plug this in like that. Hope everything makes sense. That's my goal, is to make everything make sense. Let me put this back in where it goes. There we go. Okay, everybody's happy. He's back in there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these two blue wires. And I'm expecting the furnace to start. I hope the furnace starts. And then I'm going to move you guys around. I want you to listen to this thing. Let's see, I'm not going to blow anything up. Okay, here we go. Connecting the two wires, simulating the thermostat calling for heat. Here we go. Okay, got them twisted together. Now, let me go freehand here. I'm going to move the camera. So I've got the furnace started, it's creating heat, and it sounds healthy right now. It does. It sounds like a healthy furnace, and if this is what it sounded like in the field, there would have been no reason for the customer to call me. There would have been no reason for me to have pulled it out. Okay, so I don't know if you see that. Are you in that shot over on that side? Yeah, okay, cool. So I've disconnected my wires, simulating that the furnace is satisfied. So I've opened my thermostat wires. But let me tell you what this thing was doing, which is what prompted me to make this video, which is what prompted the customer to have me come out and look at it. This furnace, you would smell the gas. So let me go there for a second. I'm really trying to add value to you guys so that when you're troubleshooting your furnace, you kind of know what to listen for, what to smell for, and what to see. So I just spent the last hour talking about the blue control circuit. Now those wires might be blue, they might turn to yellow. I know on a Suburban they're white and black, but that whole control circuit of how it goes through the thermostat, the sales switch, the high limit thermostat into the board. So we're done with that. Once that circuit gets into the board, he's counted to 15. He's proven that there's enough airflow. He's proven that he's not hot. Once he gets into that board on this blue wire, on this furnace, it's a blue wire, then this furnace says, hey man, fire in a hole, let's go, we're ready. And at that point, he's going to open up the gas valve. There's a red wire up here. He's going to open up the gas valve, and at the same time that he opens up the gas valve, he's going to send a current through this wire and create a spark on the gap. Okay, just turned off. And, oh, I just have this. Let me show you something here. Where are you at? Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Right there. Okay, this is from another furnace, but it's going on inside of here. So that red wire that I just pointed out, this one, is going to strike an arc. So here on this one, let me put it this way. This fits inside of the furnace. This is for a totally different furnace. Like I said, it's a rainy day and I'm fixing all these things. They all came to me. So this is the wire that's coming from the control board because I've satisfied I'm going to call it for purposes of instruction, I'm going to call it my blue circuit, okay? Blue circuit satisfied. There's no reason why that board says I can't ignite. So he tries to ignite, sends a wire through here, sending a spark through these wires right here. There's a little electrical spark right through here. If you want to see that, I've got another video where I demonstrate that spark because we're troubleshooting the problem. On that one, it turned out to be the control board. But it could have been the gap. It could be what you're seeing right here. As soon as it shoots a spark, then it's going to change from an output to an input, if you will. The board is going to be monitoring a milliamp current through this wire. So at first, he's going to shoot a spark through the wire, pretty good juice to create a spark. And then after he does that, he is going to monitor for milliamp current. And the way he does that is through the same electrode. There's flame here, fire, there's carbon in a flame, and one of these prongs is grounded, down here. And as long as there's a flame and there's carbon, I can shoot a milliamp current from one prong to the other using the flame, the carbon in the flame, as a conductor, okay? So that's why the gap is important. I need an 1/8 of an inch gap. If I'm too great, it can't jump the gap. If I'm too close, it's not able to jump the gap because it's too close. I need to actually jump it. Then I'm giving my board a false reading because I'm too close. 1/8 of an inch. The trick there is take an Allen key, an 1/8 of an inch Allen key, and just kind of slide it under like a gap. I want an 1/8 of an inch from my probes to my burner head, and I want an 1/8 of an inch between the two. 1/8 of an inch is a magic number here. And so I'm shooting a milliamp current through here, jumping across the gap through the flame back to ground. And if this wire detects that, then the board says, I can assume that there is a flame, therefore leave the gas valve open. Let's say I run out of propane and my flame extinguishers. Then there's no flame, there's no more carbon, there's no way for me to jump from here to here, therefore the gas valve closes. He might try again 3 times, and after that he will go into what's called lockout. All lockout is I'm not going to try anymore, I'm done. And all you do is turn your furnace to switch to off to back on to get out of lockout. So lockout sounds like a big terrible word, but it just means I'm done. I've tried 3 times and I'm not doing it. Some of your furnace control boards will wait an hour and try to reignite after that hour, but not all control boards are the same. Okay? So let me put him back over here. I want to see if we can create this sound. So here's what was happening on this furnace. We would get a woof, woof sound. My cat just freaked out. So no, it's not a dog. It's fine. Go back to playing. And the furnace would extinguish from this tremendous woof sound. So let me see if I can recreate that. For some reason, it's working fine in here. But so I've just created a thermostat. I've done a call for heat. 15-second starting. Get some sweet tea. Sounds healthy, but I know for a fact it's not. So let's pretend, let's go in the pretend world, that we were in the field and this thing would ignite. We would smell the gas. So let me go there. That might be something that might help you as well. As soon as we hear that click sound, let me grab my show and tell thing again. As soon as we hear the click sound is these solenoids, these black solenoids. There are 2 of them. We just made a video a couple days ago. Look for it. And this would be true of a water heater or a furnace. So that video could go to either one. I don't know where we're going to put it. But it turned out that one of the solenoids had failed. And it required, there's 2 of them in here. And it required this gas valve requires 2 solenoids in order to seal open. It's a redundant safety feature. Just like our DOT switch over there. So in that instance, one of the solenoid valves had failed, therefore the gas valve was not allowing gas to flow. So there's a point I'm trying to make here. Oh, okay, I remember. Blue circuit's done. I hear a click sound. The gas valve's open, that's the click. And then right away we're gonna hear tick, 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 tick. And so if the gas valve is open, we can assume that gas is filling this chamber through these holes. And that's when the tick, tick, tick is the arc being struck here, and then we should have ignition, okay? So, test question. If I hear my click sound and I hear my ticking, is there anything wrong with my sail switch? Do, do, do. Not a chance, no. Why? Because if there was anything wrong with my sail switch, if there was anything wrong with my thermostat, if there was anything wrong with my high limit thermostat, the board never got the signal to say, fire in the hole, right? So if I'm getting the click, if I'm getting the ticking, then there's nothing wrong with the sail switch. That's kind of important. Reading comments, questions, things like that, people will basically say, well, I'm hearing the gas valve ignite and it's firing off, it must be the sail switch. And I'm telling you, it can't be the sail switch because if it was a sail switch, then the board never got its blue fire in the hole signal, you know what I mean? So if you've made it to the gas valve opening, if you've made it to the ticky tick tick sound, the next thing I want you to sense for is the smell of propane. Now, if you have ignition, great, then everybody's happy. If you do not have ignition, but you hear the ticking and you hear the gas valve open, and you smell the propane, then that's what this furnace was doing, and that's what we're going to look at. What would cause this to not ignite, but yet I have the propane smell? Okay, if you do not have the propane smell, that is to say, you hear the gas valve open, you hear the tick, 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 tick sound, and you do not smell propane at your exhaust port, then it's going to be your gas valve. Make sense? And that's the video we just did. One of the solenoids turned out to be bad, which would not allow the gas to flow through. But the ticking was still ticking, and the gas valve was still making the click sound. But we weren't smelling propane at the exhaust, therefore it's a gas valve. If you are smelling propane at the exhaust, okay, that's gotten some warmth to it. If you are smelling propane at the exhaust, then it's going to be your burner head, okay? Now, let's go look at that. So to get to the burner head, we need to disconnect the gas line, which is this tube here, and 3 or 4 screws will pull this whole thing out, okay? Let me turn off my propane. So I've got this cute little propane cylinder for testing purposes. That's what I carry out into the field with me. And so I turn that off, and okay, I need a wrench, there we go. Always use a backup wrench. Whenever you're working with flare fittings, always use a backup wrench. The 10 seconds it takes you to get a backup wrench is better than the hour or 2 that it's going to take you to fix your other problem, because you bent your fitting. Okay. There we go. Okay, now my pipe is ready. Some of you have different connections. This one, in order to get this gas valve out, I need to take this whole big tube loose. Okay, so now that I have it loose, you only need the backup wrench when you're kind of breaking it, if you will. You know, when I say breaking it, you know what I mean. So, I'm not crazy about this design, but they never consulted with me when they designed it. But this is the only way to get this gas valve out, is to take this big giant pipe out. I don't know why they don't consult with me. So, there you go. So you see, there was 3/4 inch right into a chase nipple, right into the top of the gas valve. So I didn't have any kind of a swivel fitting or anything here. So you had to take this whole big giant thing off just to get to that part. I'll put that over here. But now that that's done, I've got 3, 4 of these little quarter inch screws like that. Okay, 1, 2. Now the beauty of this is if you had a service access on your RV, you would not need it. You would have not needed to have pulled the furnace out, because all this is accessible from that access port. That screw does not want to cooperate. Okay, and so we're going to pull the gas valve out. Looky there, folks. Can you see that? Make sure. Yeah. So there's a problem. That's not supposed to look like that. So let's talk about that for a second. I want to make sure you understand some differences here. So hold on. So what happened is we've got a blowout, if you will. That is supposed to look like that. See that big hole? I'm sure you can. Okay. Well, what would cause that? From my experience in working on these furnaces, that would be caused by the flame too high, because my LP is set too great. I've got too much LP pressure. Therefore, I have more BTUs. Therefore, my flame burns hotter. Age would have caused this. Where I've seen it mostly is oil in a line. Where does that come from? We buy our propane as a liquid, but we consume it as a vapor, okay? And it'd be like the analogy would be, let's put some water in a pot on the stove and turn the stove on high. The water will boil and eventually become steam, and then the water's all gone, okay? So in that instance, we would be using like a steam engine, if I were to stay with the water analogy. But this analogy is propane Propane boils at minus 44 degrees. Water boils at 212 degrees. So it's the same boiling that water does, but it's at a much, much colder setting. So if you're up north and you're getting to close to minus 40, minus 44, propane would not be a good solution for you because it would not boil. And we need the propane vapor. That's what makes our appliances work in our RV, is a propane vapor. Our refrigerator on gas, our water heater on gas, our stove on gas, and of course your furnace. So we buy our propane, like I said, as a liquid. We carry it as a liquid. I had a riddle. Let's see. We don't need to go into all this, but you buy it, you pay for it. No, you buy it by they weigh it by the pound, you buy it by the gallon, you carry it as a liquid, and you use it as a vapor. And that's propane. So having said all of that about propane, if oil is in the line, and I've seen this, I've seen this in several RVs, Class A's with their AMSE tanks, and I've also seen it where folks will get that like 100-pound cylinder or the big tank out in their yard, etc. And I've seen it there too. It could be a brand new RV. But somehow we're getting the liquid propane into our lines. Let me zoom you guys out just a touch. There we go. We're getting the liquid propane into the lines, and it works its way into here. I've even taken these fittings apart right here, and it's just been oil. It's been drip, drip, drip. And when I see that, a lot of times is where I'll see this problem. So oil in the lines from your propane cylinder or propane tank settles right in here, and it might create a hot spot, and that's where I see this mostly. And on this customer, guess what? They're pulling their propane from a big tank that's in the yard. Doesn't mean that all tanks are like that, but just be advised is the point. Now, I want to draw your attention to something here. It's very, very, very important when you buy a new burner head. So there's a new burner head for this. It's very important that you match your model number and your serial number to the correct burner head. Look at these. There's like 4 different types. It has to do with where this dent is on the back. Okay. There you guys are. I'm trying to look at the screen while I'm filming. So those, you see how hot that thing got right there. It's totally discolored. Holy cow. There's there's different profiles of the bending going on here. But also the screen holes. Now compare that to the one I showed you just a minute ago. Here, let me do it this way. Look at that one. See, his holes are different. Look at those two side by side. Let me make sure you get a good shot of that, because there you go. So you can see how the holes are different, okay, for the different BTU furnaces. Also on the backs, now these might be the same. These are the same, but some of them have more of a bent profile in here. If you do not put the correct, let me put it this way. See these where you attach it to? Those holes are the same. So that is to say, this one with the little holes will bolt right on to where this one fits. Oh, another thing is the angle. Some of them are bent more than the other. Some of them have a different angle bend to them, is what I'm saying. So you must make sure that if you're going to replace your burner head, that you get the correct one for your furnace. They are not all the same, and that is a fact. We were looking for a furnace. We worked on one the other day. It was whose was this? It was an Atwood, which is a Dometic, 8525. So the furnace was introduced to the market in 1985, and it was a 25,000 BTU furnace, 8525. And same problem on his, burned out. I've had quite a run on these things lately. I think I've done 5 in the last month, okay? That's why I've got one right here on my bench that I've been using for show and tell, and then this one. So we've been getting these things. I don't really stock these because there are so many different types. I could have every one in the world except for the one that you need, right? So it's easy enough to get them. But we were trying to find one for an Atwood 8525. So if you have a furnace and it's an Atwood 8525, they don't make these anymore, okay? And so my wife I love her to death. She's a bulldog on parts, and she is, before we knew that it was no longer available, she is digging around, trying to find this thing, using every resource available. And the harder it is for her to find it, the more bulldoggy she becomes. So she's now resorting to reading the forums. And somebody had an 8525, and they had said, well, I didn't get involved in what it all said, but somebody had made a comment, well, I got this one and it works. And that's not correct. That has to do with the amount of metal banding on the side here. And okay, great, I could put this one on and it would work for a short time, and then you're gonna have other problems. Another thing on this is, look down here. There's more air hole down here than here. So there are some differences. That's the point I'm trying to make. The takeaway from this little piece of the program is that all of these are not the same. You must make sure that the one you're using is the correct one. There's also stuff going on inside of here. There's a filter within it. Oh, there you go. That's what I was trying to explain. So if you look inside, okay, there you go. You see that little other filter right there, little semicircle thing right down there? That's what I was trying to say with the bend on the back. And if you look here, down the throat, let me get a headlight. Well, this is stupid because if I put the light in, you can't see. Let me put the light back here. There we go. So there's more profile action going on inside of this one, okay? So there's more than what you see, okay, when you buy these things. I think I've made my point and I'm ready to move on. Anyway, they're not all the same. Make sure that you get the correct one, because even though the bolt holes match, okay, does not mean that it's the correct one, okay? So we know for a fact, put that one away, that this is the correct one for this. And I can see that because the holes are the same size. And if I look inside, we can see that they're the same. So that's important. With that, let me move you around over here. Hang on, I'm gonna take you for a ride. Okay, there you go. Let me position you. And what I'm gonna do is basically change that out. And you guys can watch, maybe it'll add value. Okay. 1/4-inch drive nut, okay? And so if this was the problem, which it is, you could see I'm not looking anymore. You could see how LP could have filled this, would have not made an atomization, if you will, of the gas cloud, if you will. It would have just made a big bubble. So you can see how it got hot and it melted. So that would have caused the LP to come here, and when we struck our arc, woof, that's where the woof sound was coming from, because I was just burning it out, not having a nice little cloud of LP. So that's what caused that. So whenever, and like I said, I've done 5 in the last couple, the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so. I've got 2 of them here in the shop right now. And I'll make a video if I feel I can have somewhat control over the environment. But if I don't have control over the environment, I'm not gonna make a video, if that makes sense. Like if there's dogs barking, kids, and it just, I don't feel comfortable making a video, I'm not going to. So on those other ones, one, it was just nighttime, it was dark. So it's too many flashlights there. That wasn't so bad. 2 screws there. Now another thing it could be, let me mention this. Let me move you again, hold on. Okay, so another thing it could be, look right in here. Well, let me get another headlight. And we have Dakota with us. He's building something. I want you to look at this orifice down here. Okay, so another reason you may not smell gas. Now, in this one, we did smell the LP, but since I have everything here, I want to talk about this as well. If you've committed this much time to my video, then I want to do as much as I can to add value to you guys. So let's say, for another instance, that you did not smell LP, but you did hear the click, and you do hear the ticking, but you do not smell LP. And I said it could be the gas valve. So yes, it could be the 2 solenoids right there, okay? It could be the gas valve itself. I have a video because we had to replace one of those. It could be one or both of the solenoids. But another thing it could be is right in here, that orifice could be clogged. Where is my flashlight? This orifice could be clogged right in there. Okay, so orifice, solenoids, gas valve, those are some things to look for. Okay, I have seen instances where spiders will crawl inside this orifice and build a nest in here. Another thing, remember that long tube I had to take off? Those will rust, and I have seen where rust will make itself into this port right there. Okay, where the screen is, that'll be covered with rust from some source upstream where so that'll get clogged. If that does, you can try a can of office air. If the valve has failed, one of the easiest things to do is get one of those little cans of office airs and squirt this out. You might need to energize this. It's easy, just 12-volt source. These are 12 volts, so plus and minus. 12 volts will open the valve, will energize the solenoids, and then you can squirt office air through this. Okay? So hopefully all that made sense. And now what I'll do is I'll basically reassemble, and we're going to see if the furnace works. Let me show you how to do a gap real quick. All I'm going to do is grab an 1/8 of an inch Allen key. Okay. Now on mine, I put a little paint dot on it, a little yellow coloring, and I'm just going to slide under here. So it could go a little, but there it is. There's my 1/8 of an inch gap right there. Okay. So it doesn't have to be exactly 1/8 of an inch, but we're shooting for that. It's the idea of 1/8 of an inch. The farther off that target you are, the more problems you're going to have with your furnace. Okay, so now we'll put the screws back in, we'll fire it off, and I think we've done our repair. So this repair didn't take long to do. Surprisingly, I think the book says like 0.7 or whatever, so, but now you know how to do your own job. So if you were to have this problem and you took it to a shop, they might charge you an hour to do what I just did. But now you know all these things, and the reason you pay all this money to shops is because you should have a service technician that knows everything I'm saying to you. In other words, if you're an RV technician listening to this, you should know everything I'm talking about. This should not be anything new. So we've made our repair. The orifice, I've already taken it apart earlier. If you're going to take your orifice apart and put it back together, you do need to put some rector seal or something on there, because you want to make sure that all your gas that's coming is not making it through the threads, but it's making it through the actual orifice. The electrode looks fine. When we got this, I got a new electrode, new orifice, new gas valve, just to have an inventory, but if we're going to make these repairs and it turned out to be that, I wanted to get it. So this then goes right in there like that. Okay. And so easy peasy lemon squeezy. We put this back together like that. Okay. I'll mention this. So at the end of the day, you're going to have two wires sticking out of here. I don't know if you see these two wires. And one is for your gas solenoid, the other is for your electrode. And they're both on this side, they're both male plugs. And it's like, oh my gosh, which one goes where? How do I know which one goes to what? And so if you find your it's pretty easy to see visually where the gas solenoid valves are, the wiring is. And the electrode, you're going to find your electrode, and it's going to be this larger green wire that comes from the control board. So you follow that over, and that one that goes to your control board with the big black knobby thing, that's the one that's going to be your electrode. And then the other one that's going to go over to your control board over here. They're both going to go to the control board, but one's going to go to the big black knobby thing, and the other is going to go to the board itself, and that is where your gas valve is going to go. Okay. Maybe they could have, should have, would have done a male and female, so it's idiot proof. And also on your electrode, I could have left this one low and I could have let it touch the exhaust port. That's not something I want to do. So I want to make sure that I'm up above and away from all the heat source, if that makes sense. Okay. And because you don't want to fix it only to have to go back because the exhaust port melted it. Also, another thing you might notice is on this exhaust port is actually rusted to the port on the furnace. And so we tried to get this extension off. So the trick there is the exhaust has a tip on the end of it. It's got their name stamped on it and all this fancy stuff. And in order to get this out, we had to drill the rivets out. So you'll see holes here on the side. When we get it back out into the field, we'll put it back in and then pop the rivets back on. But so this pipe that sticks out it's like what, foot or so. It's part of this, and I'm not even going to try to get it out. Even PB Blaster wouldn't get it out. So in the top right here, I see my gas line, and this lovely device, and this is Rector Seal number 5. It's good for gas lines. So we're going to put that on all the threads. Okay. Darren, why do you use the paste, not the tape? I've just been using it for years and years in the trades, and that's just how I prefer to do it. I'm sure the tape is just fine, but I have the tape, but I was not always an RV technician, but I've been doing trade work for a long time. So we're going to tighten this back up. Isn't this ridiculous? I have to turn it like this. I don't come across this design very often, and I'm kind of glad I don't. Okay, so right there I'm starting to get a little tight. Okay. So I'm going to grab that. Hold on. I could probably... Okay, let me grab this gas valve on the top, because here's the last thing you want to do. I'm going to use these like this. The last thing you want to do is be turning this thing, and all of a sudden your gas valve, which is made out of a pot metal material, breaks because you torqued it too hard, right? You don't want to do that. But I'm holding the gas valve, and I'm using the leverage here. You really need a third person, or a second person. At this point, my son just walked away, so I would have liked to have had him here. So I'm grabbing the gas valve on the top, and I'm going to use this leverage to tighten it. And there we go. Okay. There is that. So we'll put a screw in right here. Let's connect my cute little LP bottle. See if we can get Dakota back in here. He can help us. I wonder where he went. Okay. There we go. All right, turning on the thing. Now, if this was your RV I was working on, and I just connected this LP line, I would be doing a sniff test. Not with my nose, but with a gas sniffer. All righty. Let's turn it like that. I'm going to wiggle you guys a little bit. There we go. Good enough for our purposes, because what we want to do is get a battery pack. And again, we're pretending that the thing made the wolf sound. You actually saw the problem. The problem was the burner head was toast. Right here. That was a problem. And my battery pack's almost dead. Battery pack's almost dead, but hopefully it's enough to turn our motor. So we're going to turn this on. We've got our gas on. Is it too dead to even start? Why won't it start? It could be that my battery pack is too dead. So if that's the case, let's assume that this is dead, because it's showing that it's just got one dot. There, that'll start it. So I use 12-volt tools predominantly. I've got a few that are the big 18s and the 20s and the 30s, but my go-to preferred tool is 12-volt when I'm working on RVs, because with this, I can... There. Test all kinds of things. There we go. So that big battery pack was dead. He doesn't have enough. Oh, this will be good. I'm going to let it drain down. The cell switch. This is simulating in the field, so that battery pack's dead. I don't have enough combustion. So he's dead. Let's try this guy. It sounds much healthier, so I need to charge this guy. Okay. Here's a test. You guys in the shot? Yes, good enough? Okay. So I got my propane on. There we go. I have heat. It is much quieter. It is a lot quieter than it was originally. I'm over here now. That sounds like a healthy furnace. So this whole service call was to replace that burner head. Well, folks, the video went kind of longer than I had expected, actually. Let me turn this off. There we go. The video went kind of longer than I had expected. I was just going to show you about the burned out burner head, wherever it ended up. It's over there probably. But since I have control of this environment and it's not like I've got any kind of time constraints for customers or getting to the next job, I just felt compelled to go a little bit deeper into these furnaces. And I'm hoping that if you were to watch this, you'll know how your blue circuit works. You'll understand what the sail switch does. You'll understand how the gas valves work and all these types of things. So maybe this might be the go-to video. I know it's long and I'm sorry about that, but I really wanted to kind of sew into you guys and be your guide and help you understand your furnace. So if you are having problems, maybe you just watch this one video and you don't have to watch my other 13, 14 videos on furnaces. And it really adds value to you. So nose is itching. So this is starting to cool down. We're in the post-purge because I disconnected this. Guys, if this was helpful, just give me a thumb up. I appreciate that. And find us on YouTube. We've got videos on refrigerators and awnings and slide rooms and all kinds of fun stuff. And I'm going to keep making these videos. I'm having fun doing it. You guys are kind of giving me thumbs up and inspiring me to want to do more, be more of a maker and make more of these videos and sew into you folks. My goal is to make happy campers, and happy campers say my RV works, and that's how we're growing our business. So we've even got folks coming up here having us work on the RV, and that's always exciting to reach out to you guys and have you guys come into our little area. It's beautiful here. And so I'm going to head back to the office and do some more work. Actually, I need to fix this one, which is, he's got the smaller holes. So that's 2 screws. And then that can go back. So next week is bringing this and installing it and putting that back together and installing it and things like that. So, hey guys, I really appreciate all your comments. If I don't get to them right away, it's because it's busy, but I'm running about a week or 2 behind on some of your comments, but I do read them all when they come in. I appreciate them all. Some of you are asking me questions, and I feel I want to answer those questions sooner than I'm able to get to, but it's just a balance of being out in the field. We're getting a million furnace calls right now because it's starting right when we're filming this. It's October, and everybody's just now starting to start their furnace for the first time, and maybe that's what's happening with you as well. So hopefully this has helped you, and we'll see you on the next video. So this is Darren from Port Angeles in my office clothes without my epaulets, signing off until the next video. See you later. Bye.